Hello everybody and welcome to the part 2 of our series of webinars regarding impact project and production, logistics and so on and so forth. My favorite part of the software, for those of you that know me well and have worked with me before. So that's why I decided I want to present to you this part of the software. As we said the previous time, we are following this three-part webinar in order to be able to explain the process, the precast process through the eyes or through the procedures that we can follow inside the software. Anyways, thank you for joining. Thank you for taking your time here in the beginning of the summer, or let's say some people will say middle of summer, but you know, I know most of you were going to be on vacation from next week, so I'm happy that I can join you a little bit and discuss about impact production and so on. In this part 2, we are going to discuss specifically about the cost planning and all the things around your production factories and your production facilities, your element controls, how do we handle disorders and rejections in the system, and hopefully we're going to do it in a little bit different way than what you've been used to. And that's why I would love for you to stay along and see something different than a normal just presentation of our tables and our 3D production software. Before we go to the new things, let's maybe have a quick review of what we did the previous time. As you can see, the previous time we discussed here is the project manager, and this is the model that we were handling the previous time. And the special thing about this model is basically that it is just a normal structural model. Usually we use that for our presentations, and it has a lot of elements. It has like 3 floors, and I think what we did was we used our expertise in order to do the full rough planning on this element, meaning that we went here, we changed our in the element IDs, because every element ID is unique in the system, and we made, for example, the rough planning preset and grid preset, and then we filled out the dates. At least for the first floor, I had filled out the dates for the rest of the floors. We did a lot of erection planning, the simulation module. We also saw the follow-up tabs, and of course, we discussed about also how we start the process, even when we do not have elements in the system using the tender module. I think that was very helpful for a lot of you, because we have not used that tool, or we have not shown that tool as much as the other tools that we have. Today what we're going to do is not just the normal working in one project at the same time and taking the elements directly from the model view and putting them in beds and showing you a little bit how the cost planner works. But what I would like to mostly show you, and it's important to me, is how you would work in real life. So if you are a production planner, if you are a person who is managing the production of the factory, then this is really the webinar for you to pay attention to, because here we're going to see that in a perfect world, if everything is filled out properly, like the things that we filled out, the dates, the erection sequence, and a lot of other things in the project, then how your life will become much easier by using our production planning module. I will do some explanations at the same time that some of you might find boring, but it is some tips and tricks that I have also added in the training material that we have uploaded on our wiki page. And basically what I'm going to do here is try to follow the training material as much as I can. I know it's a little bit difficult to follow in a small short amount of time the training material, but that's the process that I want to do. So Today I'm going to introduce you to a very powerful tool that it is not called Project Manager, and it's called the Resource Manager. And the Resource Manager, it is a great tool because this is basically, it's our production database. It's the forefront of our production database. This is where we gather all the information. And for those of you who might not know and have seen only a few videos about the Project Manager, the Cost Planner in the Project Manager and the Cost Planner in the Resource Manager are the exact same thing. So if you are working at one, you do not have to work in the other. The other is updated automatically, and in the same way, you do not have to go back and forth, update things. It is the same cost calendar. It is the same. It is the same too. When we're in the Resource Manager, there are a lot of topics here, a lot of themes up. The first one, if we are a production planner, we need to work in our planning. Why do we work in our planning? Because the first question that you always have to me when I show you the software is, yeah, you're showing us how to plan one project, but how can we plan multiple projects at the same time? And the answer is the Resource Manager. If you want to activate the Cost Planner, it is activated up here. And then we have the planning tab. The planning tab has a lot of filters. If you are an old user of Impact, you might notice that it has way too many filters right now. And that's actually really good. You can see here we have expanded the filtering options in our planning tab to fulfill anybody needs. Even if, for example, an element, for example, has a remark or does not have a remark, or it has a product or it has a node, so we can actually filter things directly and manage to do everything exactly how we want them to happen, to filter all the things. Usually, here what we say, you can bring in the project, select the projects from your database that you want to work on, but that's also not realistic because in theoretically the production planner should not really care about how many projects there are out there. He should care about the priorities and what project should he plan first. So what we're going to do here is basically activate some planned production dates, and that's from the 23rd of August up until the 28th of September. Pretty simple to do that. The date format, of course, goes according to the country that you're working on, and then all the elements in the database that they have this planned production date will show up in the system. All the other filters right now are basically telling us to give us all the possibilities. So I don't care if they're ready for production. I don't care what the project status is. Every element that has this planned production date in the system, if I press refresh here, will show up in our grid. Of course, what we're missing from the project manager, we're missing the model. Does a production planner need the model? He really doesn't. At least I do not know many production planners that they want or they care so much about the model. What they care about is different to each factory and the way that they are planning the elements. So here you can see I have shown 197 elements. Why do I show 197 elements? If I take this project up, you will see that I have two projects here. I have this project and I have this normal project that we have done. Why do I get only 167 elements out of the 450 or something that we have here in our summary? That is because of course we are filtering only the elements that they have this planned production date, and those are in theory the elements of the first floor. And I guess if we see here, and some of the second floor, because the elements of the first floor are only 129. As you can see, it is the same basically grid here on top as the one with the element IDs in the project manager. So as it is the same, then we can maybe apply the same filters. that is correct. You right click on it, you find the preset, and now I'm going to select the one called the cast planning. The cast planning has a different, it shows not as many, maybe I should, yeah, it doesn't show, it shows everything that it is relevant for the cast planner. That includes the length, the width, the height, and of course some definitions, product, element types, and so on and so forth. The second most important thing that we care right now as a production planner is the plan production date. The plan production date will go up here. And now I will see for the next month, which is of course, this is not how you should work. This is a little bit more how the software works. So you can get an idea. This is an idea of how a production planner should work throughout the different projects. And now we have the 26th of August, and I have 9 elements. Those 9 elements are sandwich walls, as far as I can see here on the element type. What does that mean? That means that I will go and open my cast planner. What is the cast planner now? Now that we figure out how to filter things and say, how to work in the system, in the software, what I'm going to do is explain a little bit about the cast planner. The cast planner has 3 main views. It has the calendar view, it has the detail view, and the list view. If I go to the calendar view, which is your main spreadsheet, like, let's say, view, then I can, for example, double click on this table that I have here, and I will transfer to that date on the detail view. Usually, a person who works on the production planning, he has the calendar view as his main view or their main view, and they are working on the detail view in order to maximize maybe the space or move things around if the production is not fulfilled. At least that's how I've seen it being worked in the majority of our users. In the list view, what you get basically is really a list of your tables on a specific period of time. As you can see, I have a lot of tables now, and all the tables, if you play filter from the 10th, from the first of this production date of January 10th, 2023 up until today, will show in this list view in a sense. What do I get here? I get actually a quick overview for a specific period of time for my bets, and then I can very quickly check a few things or even delete something quickly and then do it from scratch again. Okay, so it is pretty simple, but and this is a view also that you can also select multiple tables and print also their corresponding reports when it comes to custom materials or labels or even cast planning reports. Let's go back to the calendar view. In the calendar view, even if we're in the calendar view, we have 2 views. We have the left view, which is a whole table, basically. Here we select a table, and we have the right view, which is where we select every element separately. This is very important because this is how we can manage this visibility, and it's important to know. Needless to say that your cast planner can also be exported, can be undocked from this place here, and then you can just have it in a bigger screen so you can see things better, and you can use a second screen and of course use it as your real calendar. In this case now, because I have only one screen that I can show you at the same time, so I will try to be mindful and show you the cast planner in underneath the resource manager. All that you need to know, all the information that you know about the cast calendar can be can be shown, and you can read them also in the training material. Here I'm going to show you the basics, how you can just get started and get started using it. The most important thing to begin with is the calendar settings. The calendar settings shows you how many weeks ahead can you see, how many rows per cell you want to be able to see here, and you can go up to 12 weeks if that's a little tip that you can use. And also this cell rectangle, what should be the colors and the background colors, and also when something is occupied for element and something is occupied for maintenance and so on and so forth. There's a lot of things, and the footer contents and the right side of the table that shows you the total area. You can add the total length, also the total mass, the total volume. All these things are shown here on the right side of your daily summary content. I can say save. Now we'll get one total length also column. And now that I am on it, I will try to go back into here. I'll just close it from here, and hopefully it will be docked on this back here. You can also move it to go back to the beginning if that's something that you want to do. Let's continue now, and let's take our first elements here. These are from, we do not really know which project are, because this is not something that we care, but if we want to activate also, we can show hide columns. I can find the one called project, show it, and of course bring it back in to the beginning. Pretty easy to do. And then when while I'm doing that, then I can see what project I have here right next to the factory and the division. All right, we select those elements. We know it's sandwich walls. We select our division and our factory. The production planner has been built according to the factory, and then it has the different divisions. If you have multiple factories, every factory has its own divisions, then you can plan also between different factories at the same time, or you can get an overview of all of the factories and the divisions at the same time. So here I will just select the elements. I will select the tables that I want to select, or in theory, I want to select only my till tables for those elements on this day, the 26th, and then I will just go in and press this magic button for me, auto bed management. Remember to press this multicast, so all the elements, no matter what, if they fit or not, are going to be cast. And when I say fit or not on the table only, but on if there is enough space left, or if it's not, then they're moving to the next day. If of course they are not fitting in a table, they will not be added on the table, and you will get an error. That's pretty obvious. Then you have a lot of possibilities of how you want to cast them. Sometimes you can use the erection sequence, sometimes you can use the width, then length, ascending or descending. What is another, and then say start. This is the simplest and most easy way to plan your elements. The elements will change status to 30, and you see that because there were not a lot of elements, only these and these tables were filled. As you see here, this table, we select the table here, and we select an element here. When an element is selected here, it's also selected up in the planning module. The same goes here. Now what happens if I, for example, want to move an element without also knowing from this table to this table? How easy it is. You can actually select this element, take it away from here, and try to drop it only on this box. If you put it here, it will not work. You have to put it only in this box. There is not enough space for this element. So what happens here, it says 2.42 meters available. and then I have to find one of those elements that they are less length than 2.42, and there is none. There is none, which means that none of those is going to fit. However, what I can do is take this one and maybe take it and move it to my table number 4. That's also a possibility. I do that, and now table number 4 has this element. And how does it look in the date? As I said, double click, we saw the date and how the elements look. Now we can see the tables much easier and much better. Great. That's one way and an easy way to do it. Of course, there are multiple ways of working with it. And what are the multiple ways of working with it? Now I'm going to go to this, for example. I have like on the 30th, I have 19 elements. And now all of those are sandwich walls, right? Again, so I'll stay on my sandwich panels. However, what I'm going to do now is say, what are the other factors that I want in order to be able to plan my elements? And that is according sometimes to my length, width, or height, or a product, or an opening, or number of holes, number is like the group that it is important to us. So the more information you have filled out from your definitions, the more filtering options you will have. So you see here, like I would like to take the elements that are below 4 meters. Let's say now I'm just because I'm looking at it, right? And plan them, all of them, in table 1 only for the date that, of course, it is the how do you call it, that it is the 30th, right? Of course, you don't have to follow the dates. If you can plan it earlier, you can always plan it earlier, no problem. And then I will take my length, all of the elements that they are less than 4 meters, includes this, and let's say here, yeah, I think that's a good identificator. I will take this and the last two, and say that all of those elements, I want to plan them on tables 2 and 4, right? So I will go back to my CAS planner, go back to my calendar view, find the 30th, which is here, and plan them to tables 2 and 4. I will press multicast and say start, and those elements hopefully will be planned in the table. This is an example again, right? So it is nothing to do with how do you call it, with this specific way of working. Now I can see that, of course, status now is an identificator, or I can take up the status and have the rest and say now I have like the 30 status means that they are planned for production. The 10 status means that they are not ready for production. So I can take those now, say those are my big, and put them on table 1, right? And now also on the 30th. Press multicast, I'll say start. And hopefully, maybe, I do not know, let's see. We will see very quickly. 5 elements were planned on this table. 5 elements were planned on this table. 5 elements were planned on this table, and 2 elements were planned on this table. That means that because I pressed multicast, the thing continued to follow. And now the plan production dates has changed, of course, but the plan erection dates have remained the same, which now gives us a good estimation to see how, if we will manage to do those elements on the right time. The most important thing I need you to see here is, of course, that we have changed the status automatically. And if I go to this date here, we will see that we have the 30th of August, and that's how it looks. Now, what happens if, you know, something is going on and I need to plan something and I need this table empty this day and everything needs to move on to the day after, right? So there is of course a lot of possibilities here, and that means that we have this move space by shifting cast forward. So you select the one that needs to be moved forward, all the tables will move forward. So everything moved to this. You want to go backwards again, select the empty space that you want to move backwards, maybe select the 29th because now it's empty, and use this button, fill space by move back. There is a lot of tips, there is a lot of right-click functionality here that you can right-click and say edit, for example, and move all your table to another, maybe even factory or maybe even another division or something. So it is in another date, of course, so it is very easy to edit things and move things. And the most easier thing is that actually when we have the visibility in the calendar in the detail view, so for example, I'll double click on that. Now I'm going to be on the 29th of August here. And now I say I want to move things around. And how can I do that? I can actually, you know, when I can only see one day, I can actually come to the settings here and select the tables that I want to see and move the number of days to like 3, 4. It can go up to 15 days if I remember. I will take away the holidays so we don't have to see the holidays, and I will just say save. Now hopefully I will just be able to see the visual of every table of those two tables that I selected, of course, for the next 4 working days. So now I can actually, you know, because I want these two to be finished, maybe I can take one to move here where I have space, empty. That also will be moved there. And that's by just drag and dropping elements, of course, which is also a possibility, and then take that also and drag and dropping it. How else could I have done that? I could have also selected the whole table, edit, move, right click, edit, and then move the whole thing on this date on till table number 2. So there is always more than one ways of working in the system. Just this is just a clear example of how things work in the cash planner. You see here the calendar changes automatically, and needless to say that if I come back here and I'm on the same date and I just press refresh, and only I press refresh because the elements were not, of course, you know, I haven't moved the project manager, haven't done anything with it. That means that, of course, I have to press refresh. If you open it again or if another person is doing something else, then this is refreshing automatically. So you see, the calendar is exactly the same in the project manager as in the resource manager. Now, what I want you to see here is that the status, of course, is changed. Needless to say, we can also see it in the project. I don't even think we need to refresh. Maybe just a quick update here in the project to be able to see the color changes from the resource manager. So a person takes a look at this and knows exactly what elements are being placed on the tables at any time. Again, this is more a little bit of, let's say, training rather than it is a webinar where everything has to be perfect or I have to show you, oh, you plan this and this and this and this. I want to do this more a little bit also as a training because I think it is very valuable for older customers and newer customers to get something out of this 3 series webinar. Another way of working, of course, before we move on to the more specifics of the cash planner and also see the mobile app, which is a very important part, is that I want to tell you here that there is this filter, very important also, like show me what is ready for production and what is not ready for production, right? And if I take the status away from here and maybe bring in the project up, because I have two different projects, as I said, and maybe move the project as the first one. So now I have the projects. If I say ready for production, I say yes here, and then I refresh, you will see that only the 30 elements that they are ready for production, I have set them to ready for production, and it's only from this project. If I put all yes or no, then all of the elements with those states are showing in here. The ready for production is an important indicator, knowing that if the drawings are ready or not. What we have done, what we are actually we did, is that we have a setting in the resource manager that it will not allow you to produce a table that the elements does not have a ready for production mark. That, of course, is a setting. It's not something that you have to do no matter what, but it's something that you can choose here from your settings and try to make sure that you have this how do you call it, the ready for production here. It's this one, and yes means that only elements that are ready for production can be cast plan on a cast unit, and that's of course something that you do not want most of the times to be able to do it, but of course in larger projects it gives you a safety that people are not going to go and produce something that doesn't have an approved drawing before the drawing is approved, and that's why it is important, of course. So a new thing, just remember about it if you are interested in something like that. Enough with the ready for production. I planned a few elements. Again, I used only the sandwich panels. We can again try to take the element type as an indicator again. I do not know. Maybe we're already exceeding our times or something, but let's see here. I have a little bit different. This is sandwich, this is sandwich. Let's see here. All of it is sandwich walls. Maybe it's wall, wall, beam column, and now we have the 14 hollow cores. In the hollow core situation, I will just select all of them. Let's say Control and Shift, right? And then I'll just find my hollow core tables, go to the corresponding date, which is the 9th of September, and then select those two tables and say like multi-plan start, and then I plan my hollow cores. I guess they will only fill out one table, and there is a lot of available. You see here, again, this is now where you can have width length ascending. Now we can also change that and sort width length descending. So start from the thicker ones and then move down to the smallest one. So again, you can do that for all of type of your elements. I want to show you a few more cool things around this, so I would not want to waste time to plan everything. The planning for every element is the same. How you create your beds and how you see things is something that, of course, I have and we have explained thoroughly in our training material. Again, I will name it one more time about the training material. I will just go back to watching a number of days one, say save. So I don't want to be able to see all these dates now, and go back to my calendar view and find the corresponding date. Again, in reality, you will not play through the date so much. You will plan every day that comes further. You will plan a day further. Today you planned until the 28th. Tomorrow you will plan until the 1st of October, and then you will refresh, and then new elements will come up in your count. Now I have 227. Before I had 297, so I have 30 elements more, and that's how you will continue to be able to plan your elements further and further. So instead of waiting for a big schedule or whatever, you get the dates, you get the planning, and you are just doing your job. Enough with that. We move on with the next part, which is basically doing a few things here. So there is a difference here. Those elements coming from this project, they have a white line, and those elements here, they have a red line. What is that difference, and where is that difference coming from? That difference, of course, comes from the from the element controls. That means that the elements here, they have added element controls. If you see here in the right part, every element has its own element control. And this table here does not have elements that they have added element controls. You see, this is empty. How do I add element controls? There are multiple ways of adding element controls. Controls is, of course, something that it's extremely important in the process. And the easiest way for me to do it is basically come here, select the whole project or part of a project, and say right click on the model view already, say add element controls. I have already done that for those elements. And the best part is that you can see I have a lot of different types of controls for every type of element. And then I can select which control I want to add for which element. I can select all of them, or I can just select, yeah, whatever. I can just select now all of them, it doesn't matter, and then say OK. And those elements, those controls will be added. That will take some time, depending on how many elements you have. If you have a whole building, like 500,000, 2,000 elements, and you do it for the whole building, you just have to wait maybe 2 minutes or something until you get a beautiful message that it says success, element control should be added, the selected elements. Before you get that message, the element controls have not yet been added. They are added ongoing. So it is important to be able to get this message before you are sure that the controls have been added. Going back to the resource manager, another way, of course, now I don't have for these elements, I don't want to go open the other project, right click, add the controls. I can select the whole table and of course find these add element controls. They are only sandwich walls, so I will select the sandwich, I will say OK, and also the controls will be added in a GIF. I will press refresh and hopefully in a few seconds the controls have been added to the system and they have gotten also this red line. The red line, as I said before, is controlled from the settings and it depends that the cell rectangle, I'm using the control color. So now I want to do controls and I want to produce those elements and I want to move on with the process. Nice that we have fixed the calendar, but now how do I overview this process? The process is being overviewed by what we call and what we like to say the mobile app. The mobile app is the glue, is the communication between the people in the factory and the person, the production planner, seeing and overviewing the process, and that's something that it is very important. But before we can communicate to the mobile app, we have to print some things. And when I say print, the most important, you can print the custom materials, you can print the reinforcement, you can pre-print everything for the day to come. But in theory, let's say that tomorrow is the 26th, Monday the 26th, and then we have to prepare for tomorrow, for the production tomorrow. What do we do from the day before? So what do we do is basically we select the tables, the production for our whole or for the whole, for every division separately. We right click and we say print. What do we print? We print, in theory at least that's what I do, we print the element label. That is a very important thing to print. So now that will print all the labels for all the tables. Every element will get its own label with a QR code. That label is my label. It has nothing to do with your label. Every label can be adjusted and fitted to your label scanner and can look whatever you want it to look, and you have whatever logo you want it to have and whatever information from the element directly on the label. I will keep that. And the next one is I'm going to print the cast. What is the cast? The cast is more an information table for every table separately that has an element, of course, on top. So now it will print a cast with a QR code for the whole till table 1, for the whole till table 2, and the whole till table 4. So here, when I scan the QR code, I will get all the elements underneath the same table, and the same goes for this, and the same goes for this. If I scan the element label, I will of course get only this element on the mobile app. So I will keep those reports here. I will also move them a little bit on the way and try to see what can we get out of it. So the controls, of course, I can show you the controls, and we can do the controls also here. We can perform controls directly in here, but that's not something that, of course, we want to do. We want to do the controls directly from the mobile app. So what I'm going to do now is try to connect my phone. I will just make a small refresh, and hopefully I will say start broadcast, and my phone will pop up right here. Perfect. And then here you can see my phone. I will try to get this to the left and then have this to the right. You can see here I have the phone, and I will start printing out. I will start trying to take you, press this button, and then we take the. Alright, so we have all the elements under this table here, and that's very beautiful. That's one way of doing it. Again, because we want to go paperless and we want to bring elements from different tables without having to scan anything, that it is printed, we can actually press the search button and, for example, select a factory, go to the cast here, select the division. So I will just select the division about the sandwich panels, and then you need to select the date, which is the 30th or the 26th of August, right? And then select the cast unit. I will select the cast unit number 2. All shifts say search, yes, and now I will also get those two elements in here. So I have this table and this table here. As you can see here, the ID and the names are correct. So these are the elements that I'm getting here, and these are the elements that I'm getting here. Perfect. So now I want to make some controls. You cannot make controls, of course, for multiple elements at the same time. So what you have to do is select one element, go into the information, and do controls directly in here in the element control. If there are no element controls added, you can add element controls by pressing this add button up there. In our case, there are controls, of course, being done, and there is like attachment. If there is an attachment, you can see it here. I have this checklist that I always want to see or something, and then you select this one, select, and go to, we have the symbol checks and the measure checks. You do not have to have measure checks, but you can always have at least one symbol check. Form work done, yes, yes, perfect, save. Now I'll go to the measure checks, and I will also fill that out. Of course, I can write information about the measure checks. This is not now realistic for me because I'm not doing any real control, so it doesn't really matter. Say save, go back, and now the pre-production control is open, meaning that I can say that I have done it. I'll say save. What have I not done is basically add pictures. So how can I add pictures? I can say inspect, and I can take pictures live from my formwork directly into the element. So I will take my setup here, use the photo, and then I can take another one, and you can even use your camera roll if that's something that you would like. So I have those two photos here, this and this, and I'll say save. Perfect. Now the photos are uploaded. Go back to the properties, back, and of course with a quick refresh here, and of course a quick refresh here, you will see that the status has changed to 35, that the element is ready, planned and approved, and with a little refresh here, you will see also that this element has changed control to green. Even though we have a control that it is green, the status here, the whole line is red. Why is it red? It will not get green until the whole production line gets a green control, meaning that we cannot start producing this table in a sense before our whole all the controls in that table before we start pouring concrete is done, and that's why we separate into tables. So now, what is the difference? As you see here, I brought the whole cast. I brought the whole cast under this header. That if I select this header up here, it will basically select the whole table, and the same goes here, right? So I brought the whole cast. What is the difference between bringing the whole cast and then just scanning an element label? If I scan an element label, I can do that now for you, right? I can scan an element label. And now this element is the same as this element, right? It's exactly the same, but they have the same properties. But this one has a header with a plan for production and a cast ID, and this one is standalone. So why do I want to bring the whole cast instead of bringing every element? That is because I want to, when I finish my controls, I want to select the header and change the whole status to produced. I'll say save. Now all the elements, and you will see it also here, they will get a new status, and that would be produced. You see the background also changed to orange, and therefore this element that it is standalone now, it has also changed to produce. In theory, what I don't care about here is getting every element by itself by scanning its own element label. This is a label to stick on it, and we will scan it further on in the process. When we do, for example, the post-production control, we can do that separately. But when it comes to production on a table, then I think it is more important to do that by, how do you call it, by selecting or printing out or bringing in the whole cast, because it makes it easier for us to do this produced. I can select this and I don't want it anymore, so I will just remove this one element. I will take it away. And in the same manner, for example, I don't want this, I can take this cast also, set it to produced. Of course, you can do the controls, right, and everything. And I will also play refresh. You see here, it follows, it continues. It's like a live organism. Every minute, every second, you will get more updates here coming directly from the factory, and that's why it is the biggest connector. Now, for example, I will want to take this away from the view. I can just press this and then press and delete it and remove those two elements. I'm not removing them from everywhere. I'm just removing them only from my view here on the mobile app. Okay, so don't worry to press this, because then you can scan the elements again and they can come in again, or you can find them by using this button. Every element, when I select it, it has this information button. If I go to the information, you will see all the information. With a cloud solution, you can also open the drawings, or a cloud storage solution, then you can open the drawings and you can do a lot of things, such as controls, of course, afterwards. Now I'm not going to go through the whole controls. I will just say save, and I will say that the post-production controls are done, and I will say refresh, and that means that the status can change automatically. I'm able to do that because I do not have a lock on my controls. Of course, for your employees, there will be a lock, meaning that they cannot set the element to done unless every step of the production control has been also performed. This is very important to understand because, of course, now I show you how fast I can do it. I can see the time is passing by very quickly when you are speaking, and I'm speaking a lot, but it is important to understand those values and those information. Going back to the properties, right? I will go back. However, the next step, of course, is to move on, scan this label, scan a storage location code, or basically select this and put it on a storage location, right? And then assign it to storage location, and it will be set on storage. And this is basically where our webinar will finish today, in theory. But before we'll be able to do that, we have to see what happens when we get issues and when we get problems, because in reality, a lot of times we will get maybe a small crack or a few things that we need to review during the post-production control. So if I select and I go to the information, then I have what we call here issues. In the issues, you can either have a disorder or you can reject an element. How I would like to work, and that's really important to me, I am a person in the factory. Even though the crack or the problem is too big, then I need to create a disorder no matter what. So I will create a disorder, I'll make a new one, and of course I will put a deadline to it. The month should be on the 1st of September. Somebody has to see the deadline. Okay, I will assign it to my friend Nikolai, for example, and then I will select section and select the reason. This is because of production, and then the molding was wrong, and there is another categories like cracking. You can add the description, make as better description as you want, like many cracks on top. Done. There is no solution yet, no cost, no issue, and created by me. Remember, you can add a picture, you can come back here and say like, okay, I have this issue here. I will do that. I will use this photo. This is the issue. And I can come in and say create. Now I have an active disorder, and the person that I want to be notified. I can, of course, creating a disorder from here. I need to make sure that he knows about the disorder. How do we know about the disorder? Is, of course, going either to the model or to our calendar here and see that there is something here on the right side. This is something that we have the disorder count. There is a possibility to send an email directly to the person involved, as long as you set up your mail server in the database. This is also something that we can help you with. So there is a disorder count, so I will right click, I will come here, see there is a disorder, let's see what happened here. I will open my disorder, I will say edit, and now I will be able to look. Okay, this is the picture I just got. Many cracks on top. Now I can write a solution, whatever, and then send it back to the other person. Let's say that me it's Nikolai. Now I'm sending it back to Thomas, and I will just say, you know, active. Send it OK. Perfect. Okay, I will just come back here in my phone. Now it's assigned. Let's refresh the properties, of course. This is not something that happens in, you see, there is a yellow triangle here that there is an open disorder. Now I can just go in, check if anything happened, issues, disorder. It's assigned to Thomas Janssen. My name is not Thomas Janssen, but it doesn't matter. And then I will just make sure I'll take another picture and say that the issue is resolved. I will assign it back to Nikolai, and that's the process basically that we follow. So I will assign it back and say update. I'll take another picture and say that now it is a resolved issue. Going back to the properties, refreshing here, you see that the triangle changed the color to a green color, meaning that the that the disorder is resolved now. So I can just refresh, open. I don't think I need to refresh, to be honest with you, but let's say that I did. I can open the disorder count and say that disorders, edit, looking at the pictures, the new picture that they gave me, and say, okay, you know what, that's resolved, closed. We take it again when it comes. Now I have a closed disorder. I can also refresh this, and now it is a gray, a closed disorder added. Generally, this interaction is what we need and what we want in the system. Okay, where can I else can see disorders? If I go back to my project here, I have the element color status. I can just come here and see the one called disorders. So now I can look in if there is an element have a disorder. The element that, of course, we were working on now comes from another project, if you noticed. So this comes from this project, not from the other project. So the disorder, of course, is not visible in this project, which is the web production one. If we open this one and go back, that will take, of course, a little bit of time. You will be able to see the disorders, the element color for the disorders. The last part that we should discuss about is about the rejection, of course. And now, for example, this has a closed disorder. Now we can create a new disorder here, right? And I'll say information, and we can create an issue. And some people will say, I know it's broken, like I need to create a rejection. Usually, I do not condone creating rejections directly from the mobile app. So my situation, or what I will do, is basically create an issue, as I did, assign it to the person responsible, and then the person will review it, and the disorder will then become a rejection. That means that, let's say here, disorders, and then we can see if there is a disorder here. That's an element with a closed disorder, and that's an element with an overdue disorder. So you see here, that was the element that we were working with. And if we look at it, it is the sandwich wall. It is this sandwich wall that we were working, the element ID 848. Let's also make sure that we can see it here. Go back to the mobile app, sorry. It's the one, the 848 ID from this project. Great. So now that you believe me, and I showed you that, the last thing I'm going to do is, of course, create a rejection. I will create a rejection for any element of those. It doesn't really matter. The only thing you need to remember that you have to create a rejection for an element that it is produced, not an element, of course, that it is planned. These elements are planned, these elements are produced. So I will select this element, and how does a rejection work? Reject an element. And the most important function that misses, and of course it's very well that it is missing, of course, from the mobile app, is the replan, the damaged element. Of course, you do the same way, you take the pictures, you add the reasons and the sub-reasons, but then you need to decide where to replan the element. If you do not decide that, then of course there might be a possibility you forget about it, even though it's impossible, because then the status will also change here, that it is back to, you know, not ready or ready for production, needs to be replanning, so you will get it refreshed in the system that you need to reproduce this element. But let's say that you forgot about it, then you will replan the damaged element and you will select the next day and you say okay. And now we create a rejection. And then we have this also rejected element. From here, you will see here it gets this rejection, gets this value here. And when I refresh here, hopefully it will say something about that this element is rejected. And you get this information. Pretty simple. It moves to the next day. Then you go through the controls again from scratch. Everything needs to be from scratch. It's a new element. The controls are open. Everything is from scratch again. And then of course you make sure that you go through the whole process again. That happens every single day in your production. When this is finished and all of your elements are done, then you can select one element or multiple elements that you have scanned or something and assign them to a storage location. You can assign them to a storage location by pressing this scan button and then scanning a storage location code, which I do not have right now, or you can just select, press this location button and assign them to some of your storage locations on your storage. The status will change to 50, and now you have an element waiting for you on storage. Where can I see the storages? The storages is somewhere you can see here, of course, in the resource manager. As I said, the resource manager is an open database of all of our production elements, or produced elements, or elements that are about to be produced, with great visibility regarding your workload or your production and so on and so forth. But here also you gather all of your storage. Everything that has been produced up until the 30th of August will show here, and you will be able to see also if they have a storage location. You see a lot of produced elements in my database do not have a storage location. Some they have a storage location, and some of those are this element. And one of those elements with a storage location, hopefully, is this one, the one here that I can easily quickly find under storage location 5. And you can see the project that it's coming on, the element ID that is in, and of course all the information and the things that we need to know regarding this element. In theory, these are the most important topics that I wanted to cover for you. The controls are also gathered here. If I press refresh, I need to contain the periods. I need to make some periods, smaller periods of, like I want to put from the 27th to the 30th of August, because if I put I risk to get a lot of waiting time in my control. Oh, sorry, I said to use the no, and then I will say no. And now you see here I have selected the controls between these 3 days, and of course there are a lot of elements that we have added controls on for those 3 production dates, if that makes sense. Let's hope that it will not take that much time while waiting to get those controls. And the same works for the rejections and the disorders. The database there is it's the same. All of your rejections between a period of time, closed, open, you can decide, and the same for the rejections, and you can get a whole issue of what the issues are, categorize them, make sure that they will not happen again, and make sure that if there is a problem with a table that produces all the time cracked elements, then you might understand that there is an issue there forever. And that's the power of the front face of the database, of the gathering of information in the front face for everybody. Workload and production, of course, is just your normal rough plant elements and fine plant elements chart that you can group. We saw that, I think, a little bit the previous time, and of course the production is, of course, how many elements you have produced and what according to your KPI, of course. This is for me. This was very quickly what I want to show you. Let's maybe see if the controls are done. The controls were done, and you can see all the elements have controls. This is what I want to show you. More than an hour. Sorry for that. The last part is going to be the transfer planning. Not so much time, hopefully. Thank you so much for staying with me. I hope you can also see this webinar as a small little training. Take this and adjust it to your projects, or go into the training in Impact and make sure you get started by using this information regarding the production planning. Thank you so much. Have a nice summer, and I'll see you all. I think it's in the end of July. So I hope you have a nice and safe summer. I'll see you all soon. Bye bye.